This week's follow-up for your short story setting is going to be Gabriel Garcia Marquez's story, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. And as I said in the written part on Blackboard, I really do like this story, and therefore I assigned it as a reading, and I'm going to talk about it. Now, I asked you particular questions that I wanted you to address on your journal, and I'm going to address some of those questions. And this week, of course, we are talking about setting. I chose this story in particular to exemplify setting, again, for several reasons. One is because of where this takes place. And I asked that in the in the journal, in the directions for the journal entries. What is the setting of this story? Where does it take place? And I've taught this many times in seated classes, and the students usually say in Europe, and a lot of times they say in Spain. And of course they take that clue from the author's name and also from the names of the characters. Some say Mexico, some might say South America, even though in Brazil, the major language is Portuguese. But I agree with these students. I do think it takes place probably in Spain or in Mesoamerica, just from the names. But it doesn't give a specific location, and that is for a reason, I also think as well. When does it take place? That is perhaps a little harder to pinpoint, and I will ask this about other stories that we are going to read in the future. Now, of course, stories like The Thing in the Forest, the setting is very clearly delineated, not only in where it takes place, but when it takes place. This story is much more vague. Most people think this takes place far distant past, but it doesn't really, because it talks about airplanes, and so that must put it in a more modern setting. But the thing is about this place is removed. It is not just down the street, and the people in this story have a very simplistic faith and a very simplistic outlook on the world. And I ask you at the beginning of the story on page 538, it has the title and then it says, A Tale for Children. And of course, children's tales often hold some information or some lessons or morals for adults. But why is this story particular for children? Because it has that fairy tale atmosphere quality that in part is given or imparted by the setting. It is in a once upon a time place in a land far away. And that, of course, is the hallmark of fairy tales. And fairy tales I also ask you to discuss in The Thing in the Forest. And though I didn't specifically ask you about that element of this story, I wonder if you picked up on it or not. This story is concerned with, or I shouldn't say concerned with, but is presented in a type of genre that is magical realism. And that is just what it says. This story has many magical elements. It has the old man with enormous wings. It has the Spider Woman. But yet it is in a realistic setting in that these people deal with things that we deal with. There are schools, they live in a house, they worry about bills. Now, we've talked, of course, about narration and other aspects in other lessons. And again, I want to ask in this, the narrator is third person, and is the narrator reliable? Is there really an old man with enormous wings? And we have to assume, yes, there is. And then, of course, the question is why? And we never really reach an answer to that. Is this old man an angel? We don't know. So how do we explain his existence? Well, in magical realism, it is just accepted. These people don't question this. They don't disbelieve their eyes. They look for the most logical conclusion, and the most logical conclusion for them is He is an angel. And I talked before about the willing suspension of disbelief. And in this story and these types of stories, we really have to do that. We have to look at it from the point of view of accepting the fantastical. And that is what children are able to do. Children believe in Santa Claus. Children believe in the tooth fairy. And yet they live and move within the real world. I'm going to stop here. I'll come back.